over 100 years, rugby players from New Zealand have crossed the world to play matches in Europe. Wherever they've played, whether at club, divisional or international level, the grounds have been packed to capacity by followers of his have been invaluable in standardising interpretations of the laws of the game and in influencing young people to take up rugby. But it is the All Blacks who have built up and maintained that special relationship with the Five Nations. The New Zealand touring team knew that whatever else they'd meet along the way, one thing was guaranteed. England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales and France would be at their peak. And so what we're about to see is what the All Blacks came to expect down the years. A Five Nations challenge of uncompromising dimensions. For to beat the All Blacks was the ultimate achievement. The visit of this New Zealand team for a tour of England, Ireland and Wales was the beginning of it all. They were known as the Maoris, and they were away from home for a year and 2 months. Between June 1888 and August 1889, they played 107 matches, winning 78, including the unofficial international against Ireland. But they were not the New Zealand All Blacks. After a dozen or so journeys across the Tasman Sea on exchange visits with New South Wales and Queensland, the official New Zealand All Blacks went on tour for the first time in 1905, when they beat Australia 22 points to 3 at Sydney Cricket Ground, whilst en route to Europe. They were virtually a team of settlers, and in their back row was Dave Gallagher, an Auckland player born in Northern Ireland in 1873, and it was he who captained the New Zealand rugby team on a tour of the Five Nations in 1905. These were the first All Blacks. They were dubbed Gallagher's Supermen, winning 32 of their 33 matches, and many of those victories were by 40, 50, even 60 points. Gallagher was a thinker, a rugby innovator and tactician. He combined that authority with the strength and skills of his forwards and the running, handling and tackling qualities of his back division. But at Cardiff Arms Park on the 16th of December 1905, his All Blacks were to meet a Welsh team who were enjoying a golden era of rugby supremacy, having adapted the new 4-3-quarter system. 47,000 spectators, many of whom had walked 20 miles or so from the mining valleys, were there to see if their heroes could hold Gallagher's invincible All Blacks. About half an hour into the game, they were sent delirious with joy when the Welsh centre Teddy Morgan scored a try. New Zealand retaliation tested the heroic Welsh defence, and when the youngest player in the All Blacks team had a try disallowed in the dying minutes, it provided a conversation piece for over half a century. Did Bob Dean score that equalising try? Well, to their dying days, Welsh three-quarters Willie Llewellyn and Rhys Gabe swore they brought him down short of the line, ensuring Wales their first victory over the All Blacks. In their internationals, Scotland's scores came from Watsonians prop McCullum and a drop goal by Edinburgh University fly-half Simpson. France scored 2 tries at the Parc des Princes Stadium on New Year's Day 1906, but New Zealand's 38 points included 3 tries by the Wellington centre Billy Wallace. After his playing days, Dave Gallagher served with distinction in the Great War and was killed at Passchendaele in 1917. His vice-captain on the right, Billy Stead of Southland, was regarded by all who saw him play as the greatest first 5/8 in rugby history. The Great War brought a halt to touring, and so the Five Nations had to wait until 1924 before they were able to welcome the second All Blacks, under the captaincy of Wellington flanker Cliff Porter, who through injury played only against France in the tests. So the responsibility of leading the All Blacks rested with Jock Richardson, the Southland flanker, and one of the few survivors of the drawn series against the Springboks. They went one better than their predecessors, winning all of their 30 matches, with neither Ireland nor Wales scoring a point against them. And that owed much to the incredible skills of a 19-year-old Maori fullback from Hawke's Bay, George Napier. He was to play in all 30 matches on the tour, and on the 1st of November 1924, he took the field with the All Blacks at Lansdowne Road for the Test match against Ireland. Harry Stevenson, the United Services wing three-quarter, was Ireland's captain, and 25,000 Irishmen were there to cheer them on a wet and dismal Dublin day. The Irish team included the captain's brother, George Stevenson, at fullback, Ernie Crawford, and a man who convinced the world that rugby was a game to enjoy immensely, the Dublin University flanker, Jamie Clinch. The dreadful conditions produced a lacklustre first half, with no score at the interval. It was an Irish defensive error that allowed the Wellington wing Snowy Svensson to score the only try of the match. A penalty goal by Nichols sealed victory for the All Blacks, 6 points to 0. On the 29th of November, the All Blacks were at St Helens, Swansea, with Jock Richardson still taking on the responsibility of captaincy. The Welsh captain was Jack Wetter of Newport, virtually playing as an extra halfback, a ploy to beat the All Blacks' dynamic back row. But Wetter became virtually a passenger after an injury early in the match. The All Blacks pack was dominant, and alongside Richardson in the back row were the Hawke's Bay brothers Cyril and Maurice Brownlee. Wales were totally outclassed and unable to score. The All Blacks' 19 points came from 4 tries, 2 by Hawke's Bay hooker Bill Irvin, 1 by Maurice Brownlee, 1 by Svensson, with Mark Nichols, the Wellington centre, adding 2 conversions and 2 penalties. At Twickenham on the 3rd of January 1925, the All Blacks came up against an England side who had been virtually invincible under the captaincy of Wavell Wakefield, regarded as the architect of the modern game, a leader of great stature both on and off the field. The All Blacks had made only one change from the team that trounced Wales. The weather was perfect, 60,000 at the ground, to see England cross the All Blacks line twice, with tries by Oxford University fly-half Kittermaster and by Cove Smith, the old merchant tailor's second-row forward, who had been the captain of the Lions tour to South Africa the previous summer. Conway of Hartlepool Rovers converted 1, and Corbett, the Bristol centre, drop-kicked a penalty, making a total of 11 points for Wakefield's team. But the All Blacks were to score 19 points, with 4 tries by Svensson, Steele, Parker and Maurice Brownlee, with 1 conversion and a penalty by Nichols. But the game is remembered mostly for a sad incident early in the game. After referee Albert Freethy of Wales had issued a general warning about over-vigorous play, he sent off Cyril Brownlee. So the All Blacks moved to France with an unbeaten record. At Toulouse, the French scored 6 points from 2 tries, but again, it was victory by a huge margin for the All Blacks, whose tour captain was at last fit enough to play. The Auckland centre, Brent Cook, scored 2 tries, and there was 1 each for southern flanker White, West Coast wing Steele, Hawke's Bay hooker Irvin, and Jock Richardson, with yet another test try for Svensson. But it was fitting that the tour captain Cliff Porter contributed to the All Blacks 30 points with a try of his own. Whatever satisfaction the 1924-25 invincible All Blacks took from this tour, the greatest pleasure for the faithful back home in New Zealand was surely the thorough victory over Wales. They were also puzzled that they'd not been given a fixture against Scotland, who showed by winning the 1925 Grand Slam that they would probably have given them their toughest opposition. 10 years later, the All Blacks were back, with Canterbury flanker Jack Manchester as captain, regarded as one of the best All Black forwards of the 30s. Their first test was to be against Scotland at Murrayfield. Scott's captain was the brilliant Glasgow High School fly-half Wilson Shaw. Scotland played in white, and it was Shaw's midfield skills that led to the first try of the match, when he cut through to send Dick on his way to getting the scoring pass into Fife on the wing. New Zealand replied with 4 tries, 3 of them by Auckland centre Pat Cowie. But the final thrill of the match for 60,000 spectators at Murrayfield was to see another break by Shaw, sending in centre Dick for a try. But it was still a win for the All Blacks by 18 points to 8. 2 weeks later, the All Blacks were at Lansdowne Road to meet an Irish team which was to provide the 1938 Lions with a captain, Sammy Walker, and the 1955 Lions with a manager in Jack Siggins, both back row specialists from Belfast. But 2 tries by Mitchell and Oliver in the first 10 minutes gave the All Blacks an early advantage. The last of the All Blacks' 3 tries came from a determined effort by Canterbury winger Hart, New Zealand's 17 points. And Ireland's 9 points included a try by Leicester prop Beamish. So their next match was to be against Wales, and Jack Manchester's team hadn't forgotten what had happened when they met Swansea at the St Helens ground early in the tour. The halfbacks were 2 schoolboy cousins. Hayden Tanner at scrum half occupied the All Blacks back row, releasing outside half Willie Davis to cut his way through the midfield. On 2 occasions this resulted in a try for their captain Claude Davey, giving Swansea an historic victory by 11 points to 3. So, just before Christmas 1935, the All Blacks were at Cardiff Arms Park and quietly confident that they wouldn't lose against Wales. But Welsh captain Claude Davey was also confident that his team had the talent, not just to hold the All Blacks, but to beat them. His new cap at scrum half, that same schoolboy Hayden Tanner. 50,000 Welsh supporters thought the chance of victory had gone when in the second half, and New Zealand already in the lead, Wales hooker Don Tarr was carried from the field with a dislocated neck. But then the Welsh midfield skills of Cliff Jones, Wilfred Wooler and Claude Davey began to dominate play. And so it was that Wales went ahead with tries by winger Geoffrey Rhys-Jones and captain Claude Davey at centre. But then a try for the All Blacks by the Wellington winger Nelson Ball. The All Blacks into the lead, 12 points to 10. Finally, though, it was Wooler who barged through their defence to get the ball for Geoffrey Rhys-Jones and his second try, and a one-point victory for Wales. 2 weeks later, on the 4th of January 1936, the All Blacks at Twickenham, with several changes from the team that had lost at Cardiff. England's team was to be led from fly-half by Bernard Gadney, but the star of the day, standing third from the right, was a Russian prince, Alexander Obolensky, whose family had come to England in 1917. He was fast and inventive, and although picked on the wing, Obolensky would often occupy a midfield position to get the ball early and make a dash for the opponent's line. And he did exactly that in scoring his first try. "72,000 spectators were there, not just to see the All Blacks, but more scintillating runs for which Obolensky was renowned. His second try underlined that genius. It's not often in the history of international rugby that a right wing scores out on the left. New Zealand had yet to score when the England captain Bernard Gadney added a further 4 points from a drop goal. 10 points to 0 ahead, and still another spectacular thrill in store for the England supporters when the other wing, Hal Seaver of Sale, ran 40 yards to gain England a famous victory over the All Blacks, 13 points to 0. But the day's remembered as Obolensky's match. Sadly, though, just 4 years later, he was to be killed in a flying accident early in the war. 2 victories, 2 defeats. Well, that made sad reading for people back home in New Zealand. But consolation came that year when in September 1936 the All Blacks beat the Wallabies in a 2-test series at home to recapture the Bledisloe Cup. No All Blacks tour in the 40s because of World War II, but it was an army side from the New Zealand Expeditionary Force who undertook a tour in 1946, and that was to re-establish international rugby in Europe. The Five Nations have been ever grateful to Charlie Saxton and his New Zealand colleagues ever since. When the 4th All Blacks arrived in 1953, the rugby fraternity were looking forward to an encounter not so much like the pre-war tours, which few could remember, but to a carbon copy of the thrilling Springbok tour 2 seasons earlier. Their new captain was the Canterbury flanker Bob Stewart, who was back in New Zealand colours for the very first time since 1949. A week after beating Llanelli by 4 tries to 0, the confident All Blacks were at Cardiff Arms Park to meet the Cardiff club team, captained by Blethyn Williams, who had led the Lions team in the 1950 Test Series in New Zealand. At halfback, Rex Willis and Cliff Morgan. But it was the Cardiff pack who were to be the heroes that day, winning good possession for their talented backs. So it was fitting that it was their flanker Sid Judd who got their first try, converted by winger Gwyn Rowlands, and he was to get the second, receiving a long scoring pass from centre Alan Thomas. He went over in the corner to make it 8 points to 3, victory for Cardiff. And it was no surprise to anyone then that Blethyn Williams was to carry the responsibility of being captain of Wales when they met the All Blacks at the same ground for the Test match 4 weeks later. There must have been a feeling almost of déjà vu for the All Blacks. The entire midfield was selected from Cardiff, and once more the first try. Jardine converted to put New Zealand in the lead at half-time. Gwyn Rowlands, who had converted the Welsh try, added another 3 points early in the second half when Wales were awarded a penalty in front of the All Black posts. Score now even, 8 points all. Their Blacks. And so they returned home with a record that showed defeat in Cardiff, a creditable victory at Twickenham, a Bob Scott match-winning penalty at Murrayfield, and defeat at Stade Colombe when France got a single try scored by their captain and flanker Jean Prat. The 5th All Blacks arrived after having beaten England in 2 tests on their short tour of New Zealand, mainly through the formidable kicking of the Waikato fullback Don Clark. And the team also contained the likes of Colin Meads, Kel Tremaine and Waka Nathan in the pack. The captain was the Auckland prop Wilson Winneray. In 2 years he had led the All Blacks to 10 successive victories. His team were to lose only once during the tour, which we shall see in a moment. But firstly, let's see the action from the international against Ireland on the 7th of December 1963. In the Irish pack were experienced lions, Ronnie Dawson, Noel Murphy and Bill Mulcahy. But with Ireland ahead from a converted try by the Clontarf wing Fortune, the All Black flanker Kel Tremaine went over for an unconverted try. Ireland 5, New Zealand 3. Somehow it seemed inevitable that fullback Don Clark would snatch victory for the All Blacks, and so it happened halfway through the second half with a penalty kick. Ireland 5, New Zealand 6. Earlier in the tour came that only defeat of Winneray's team, and it happened at Rodney Parade, Newport on the 30th of October. Brian Price's Black and Ambers were magnificent. They knew Newport had beaten the 52 Springboks and the 57 Wallabies. They also knew they had the forward strength to match the All Black pack. They also had David Watkins, the general, at outside half.
Lahore covering for the All Blacks right in front of their posts. Now Newport want the heel. Can they get it? They can. Crosser. Uzzell trying a drop goal. And is it there? Yes, it is.
That John Uzzell drop goal gave Newport a deserved and historic victory. After beating Ireland, the All Blacks met Wales at Cardiff Arms Park on the 21st of December 1963. Along with Brian Price and David Watkins, Newport were honoured with Alan Thomas and John Uzzell winning their first caps in recognition of their historic victory. The All Blacks were 3-1 down in the series, and 3-2 would certainly look better in the New Zealand rugby record books. But for Wales, the winning sequence against New Zealand was to end. The All Blacks failed to cross the Welsh try line, but their 6 points came from a drop goal by Bruce Watt and the inevitable penalty kick by fullback Don Clark. And so Wilson Winneray's team were happy. They were the first All Blacks team to win an international at Cardiff Arms Park in 58 years. No points for England either when they met the All Blacks at Twickenham on the 4th of January 1964. After 2 defeats against New Zealand and 1 against Australia during their tour down under, the England captaincy went to the new fullback, John Wilcox. But they lost 14-0, England's worst result since Twickenham opened in 1910. Don Clark kicked 8 of the points and the All Blacks scored 2 tries, one by Wellington winger Coulton and one by the man they called Pine Tree, the King Country lock, Colin Meads.
Heaven knows how many overlaps. And here goes Colin Meads, and will anybody stop him? No, he's there. What a try. Forwards and backs alike, from the left wing right back to the lock. This king-size New Zealand forward.
Even with the new underground electric blanket at Murrayfield to keep away the frost, neither side could produce a score of any kind in the Scottish match. But at Stade Colombe, it was a 12-3 victory, in which Don Clark failed to convert tries by Coulton and Gray. The French points came from a penalty by the man they called Monsieur Le Drop, Pierre Albaladejo. The Wairarapa number 8 Brian Lahore led the 1967 All Blacks, a team which was originally scheduled to tour South Africa. His side included the exciting combination from Otago, halfback Chris Laidlaw and first 5/8 Earl Curtin. England were captained by the Coventry prop Phil Judd, with Bob Lloyd the Harlequin centre, a new cap in the England side.
Here the New Zealanders watching it to Colin Meads from Tremaine. Beautifully back to Laidlaw, nicely out to Davis. This is the centre playing at stand-off. Magnificent run by Davis. Can he get there? It's a try for Curtin. Beautiful try for Curtin. Puts New Zealand ahead by 3-0. And it's absolutely plumb centre. And so the All Blacks lead England by 5-0 after 7.5 minutes of the first half. Tremendously encouraging for those English forwards, that long kick by Finland. There's nothing that excites a forward more than to be running up the field and not back down towards his own line. Meads got that back nicely. Curtin took his eye off it. This is Rogers trying to give it to Taylor, but he hasn't. It's taken by Williams. Here's this Wellington flanker. Almost up to the England 25. McRae joining in, number 13, dribbling on. And this is Meads up there as well. Williams is there, number 6. And it's a try for Birtwistle. A sudden breakaway there, and Birtwistle has scored. And so it's Fergie McCormick, the All Black fullback, trying to convert that try. It's there. 10 points to 0, the All Blacks lead. Kel Tremaine in the middle. The man with the sweatband is Sam Strawn of Manawatu, North Island. Out to Curtin. This is McRae. The short kick through meant for Davis. Bertwissel, he's got a beautiful bounce. He's over the 25. Can he make the corner? He's inside Rutherford. Well tackled by Savage. A yard short. The ball went forward. It was Davis who followed up, but the ball shot forward. And you can't be more on the defensive than that situation. Gittings waiting, and it's a try. This is just outside the English 25. Lahore has broken, he's at standoff. This is Lahore from the number 8 position, committing the backs. This is McRae, the big Hawke's Bay centre. Nicely back from Williams. Laidlaw working the narrow side. This is Curtin. Curtin, can he get to the line? I think it's going to be another brilliant try. Has he touched the touch-and-goal flag? We'll see. And the referee has given the try to Curtin. That's his second try of the match. It could be there. It's just crept over. New Zealand 18, England 0. Already a record New Zealand score here against England, and I make it about 5 minutes to go to half-time. Gittings, nicely to Finland. Savage, all the way through to the 25. McFadden, out to Lloyd. Lloyd must score. A brilliant try for Lloyd. And there's Bob Lloyd in his first international, an England scorer. And we're coming back to Don Rutherford with the conversion. That's more like it. Yes, that's the Don Rutherford we know. And so that must put a bit of heart into the English side. They've a long way to go yet. New Zealand 18, England 5. Lahore palms, Laidlaw, Curtin. This is McRae. Davies on the short burst, almost up to the 25. He's got Dick outside him. This is Dick. He must score. Magnificent try by Malcolm Dick. McCormick then. And it's there. It doesn't matter how it gets over as long as it gets over in between. The All Black front row holding on well. There's the wheel trying to dribble away. And there was a perfect example of the tremendous courage of this little English scrum half. A penalty to England. So that looks more like it. It's a good one. And so a first kicking success for Peter Larter. New Zealand leading by 23 points to 8. I make it that we're into injury time. New Zealand 23 points to 8 up as Lahore again takes it. This is Colin Meads. Look at this, like a human tank. Trying to give it to Williams, couldn't. It is nicely out to Finland. Savage, thrown down on halfway. Picked up by Bertwissel. This is Larter. Beautifully out to Finland. And England's forwards trying to take their tired limbs up there. Budge Rogers is in. Just 15 yards out from the New Zealand line. Can England get a last-minute score? McFadden, Lloyd. Can Lloyd make it? And Lloyd has scored a remarkable try. His second try of the match. Brilliant last-second effort by England.
But all New Zealand's tries, all 4 of them were converted by fullback Fergie McCormack. A week later, it was Cardiff Arms Park and a Welsh team whose captain was Llanelli hooker Norman Gale, and playing together for the first time in an international, scrum half Gareth Edwards, fly half Barry John.
Can he get it out to Bertwissel? Bertwissel is going to make the corner, and Bertwissel has scored. A try for Bertwissel puts the All Blacks ahead by 6 points to 0 after 17 minutes of the first half. Jones
out to Barry John, the drop goal. Has he made it? It's over all right. There's Barry John. 8 points to 3 to New Zealand. A long kicker of the stature of, say, Don Clark or Bob Scott. But when New Zealand need a penalty goal, and they certainly need one now, you never know what their fullbacks are liable to do. It's not so terribly far away, just short, 10 yards short. Dropped there by Jeffrey, and it's on, and it's a score.
A New Zealand victory, 13 points to 6, to be followed by a more challenging encounter with the French at Stade Colombe. The All Blacks winning 21 points to 15, at 4 tries to 1. And then it was up to Murrayfield to meet the Scots on the 2nd of December. Brian Lahore's win by 14 points to 3 was not without its moments of high drama.
And they've healed it, and they're delivering it nicely to Chisholm, meaning to go for the drop goal. The left-footed drop goal, is it there? Yes, it is. Chisholm took Scotland ahead by 3 points to 0. Again, Lahore. This is Meads on the charge. Grant goes down, but this is Gray, the prop forward, over the 25. Beautifully out to McRae. McRae, I think, must score, and he has. A magnificent try for McRae. It may just be past, but it's not. It's got in. And so McCormick goes up to 103 points for the tour. The referee's whistle goes for half-time, with New Zealand leading Scotland by 9 points to 3. The All Blacks often, or occasionally, leave that big gap for a forward to go up the front. Anyway, here's Laidlaw. Curtin, McRae, Curtin on the overlap. There must be a try here, surely. Curtin, beautifully out to Davis, and Davis has scored. Michael trying to haul Colin Meads out of it. Hasty in there as well, and that's no place for a man of his weight. In goes Meads trying to loosen the ball with his foot, and the crowd didn't like that one. And this is going to be very interesting, because I have a feeling that Colin Meads may have been ordered off the field. And this, if this is so, this has not happened since 1924, when the All Blacks played England at Twickenham.
Fred Allen, the former All Black player, was the official coach with that 6th All Black side, and it was his considerable influence on the style and success of the team that convinced other nations to follow the example. An outbreak of foot and mouth disease in Ireland prevented any matches being played there. And so the 7th All Blacks came on tour next, after demolishing Australia in a 3-test series at home. But they knew that the home unions would field Lions from the successful 1971 tour. Ian Kirkpatrick, the Poverty Bay flanker, had been captain against Australia, and he was to lead New Zealand in this Five Nations challenge. But early in the tour, they were to discover that not only a star-studded international side could beat the All Blacks, they lost 2 of their early matches. One was at Stradey Park, packed by the faithful, to see if Llanelli could beat the All Blacks.
That's his view of the post. The dot by the ball is the 10-yard line. Bated breath. The crossbar! Overthrown! Roy Burgess is the happy man. Bennett hit the crossbar with his penalty attempt. If he puts this over, Llanelli will be 6 up. He does. And here's Hill. Now, the thing about Andy Hill is that, for those of you who aren't aware of it, he's the club's record scorer, so actually with bated breath.
Oh, the celebrations. And as the Welsh savoured that famous Llanelli victory over the All Blacks, the Northwest counties were also to put themselves in the history books as the first English team, other than the official England side, to beat the All Blacks since 1905. Ian Kirkpatrick's team were understandably worried. They needed a lot of hard work to win the first of their 5 test matches just a week away. The first international was against Wales at Cardiff Arms Park, and the Welsh picked a team which contained 12 players who'd experienced playing against New Zealand, and their captain was centre Arthur Lewis. The All Blacks opened the scoring with a penalty kick by their new fullback Joe Karam of Wellington. His 5 penalty kicks that day were to prove as deadly accurate as his predecessor Don Clark.
Karam, straight and through. First blood to New Zealand.
Llanelli's outside half Phil Bennett, though, was to be equally accurate with his 4 kicks. But there were 2 tries for the 52,000 spectators to savour.
Another good catch by Peter Whiting. Going hoists one. Bevan again waits. Going has him. John Williams had to go in. The whole New Zealand back are there, and it could be a try for Keith Murdoch. The New Zealand forwards moved up there like a great black blanket. And with Suspenvach, the 52,000 crowd, trying to produce that little bit of extra encouragement. But there, Danny Norton has taken one against the head. That's going, held by Edward. Bennett kicks through. Bennett, nicely out to John Bevan. Bevan over the 25. Can he make the line? What a run! And it's a try for Bevan. The referee's whistle has gone. The match is over. And New Zealand have won by 19 points to 16.
2 weeks later, the All Blacks were to meet Scotland, who were celebrating their centenary season. Their captain was the Gala number 8, Peter Brown. He was to kick a penalty, but the first try in the gathering gloom of Murrayfield was by the captain.
Go outside, but my goodness, the Dutch judges' flags are up. Irvine, one of the most prolific scorers in Scottish rugby. Batty the scorer, Robertson the creator. Back up to the New Zealand 25 then. 10 points to 3, the All Blacks lead. About 22 minutes of the second half over. Number 7, Alex Wiley, withdraws from the New Zealand line-out. Kirkpatrick couldn't control it. The Scots have. This is Ian McRae. McRae inside to McHarg. McHarg to McEwen. This kick, if it went over, could cut the leeway to 1 point. Irvine, big and long. What a kick! The mist starts to come down, and it's difficult to pick out the players, and altogether it's a tremendously exciting situation. Steele to throw. Kirkpatrick palms. Going hoists it. Clark the hooker waits. This is Steele. Steele gives it to Gordon Brown. On halfway, this is McRae. McRae to McHarg. McHarg intercepted by Going. Can Going make the line? I don't think anybody's going to catch him. And Sid Going has put it absolutely dead safe for New Zealand. And the All Blacks have kept this remarkable record of theirs. Unbeaten in Scotland and in 6 internationals against the Scots. 5 victories and just the 1 draw in 1964.
The captain of the England team to meet the All Blacks at Twickenham was Bristol hooker John Pullin. The England players were talented enough to offer the All Blacks a really positive challenge, but for Pullin's team, it was a day of missed chances.
Ralston has gone with Peter Whiting, but there's the favourite throw over the top to Going. Sid Going is almost to the post. In goes the New Zealand forward drive. That was laid back beautifully. Kirkpatrick has scored. 4-0 New Zealand lead. 7.5 minutes of the match over. A very simple kick for Joe Karam, and he hasn't missed many of those on this tour. David Duckham is lurking behind his three-quarters, but New Zealand have taken one against the head. That was a useful one. Duckham was in a good position there. Kirkpatrick trying to release Going. Back to Alan Sutherland. That was Ripley trying to feed it out. Now it's nicely out to Peter Priest. Priest kicking through for Morley. Can Morley get there before Karam? Going. There's a chance here for Webster. Has Webster got the pace to get there, or will Batty beat him to it? It was Brian Williams who got back to save for New Zealand. Pull-in throws. Kirkpatrick knocks Webster over. This is Finland. Brian Williams with the drop goal. It's big and it's long. And it's there. The referee's whistle goes for no side, and the All Blacks have won by 9 points to 0.
The 20th of January 1973, and Cork fullback Tom Kiernan led Ireland against the All Blacks at Lansdowne Road. Could they be the first of the 5 nations to beat them? And players like Mike Gibson, Tom Grace, Ray McLaughlin, Willie John McBride and Fergus Slattery, the Irish had the nucleus of a winning team, whilst New Zealand fielded the same players that had beaten England.
Struggling free, look at that strength, he's in the score! And Joe Karam's kick could make the difference, 3 points. Still in Ireland's half of the field. Ireland's ball. Gibson over the top, trying to ignore Flynn, trying to make the overlap. On the 25 now. Can New Zealand get this? They can, and there's an overlap if the ball comes this way. Lampert on the blind side. Burgess can get there. Slips it into Kiss. Alex Wiley. Barry McGann. Already successful with 1 penalty goal. And this strictly within his range. This is the man who made a superb run a few seconds ago, John Maloney. John Maloney then, Going robbed him well, but that's McGann into the gap for Flynn. Sutherland covering, hammered to the ground by Slattery. The 10-yard line. On the blind side, this could be drama. This could be drama. Can he get there? Can he get there? The ball is dead, I think. It's a try. It's a try. Tommy Grace. And so the men of Ireland, who traditionally have hearts as big as any stadium, have succeeded where no other country in the British Isles have succeeded.
So of the home countries, it was Ireland who gave Ian Kirkpatrick's All Blacks the toughest challenge, a creditable draw that for Kiernan's team. France had already beaten Scotland at Parc des Princes in January, and tries by Bertrand and Dort secured a magnificent victory over the All Blacks in February. After beating Australia for the Bledisloe Cup, the 1974 All Blacks went to Ireland to help them celebrate their centenary season. The Wellington flank forward Andy Leslie had led them in the 3 Wallaby tests and was the obvious captain for the centenary visit. The invincible 1974 Lions captain Willie John McBride was the obvious choice to lead Ireland in their celebration season. The Irish had a pretty good run out when they drew with an overseas 15 just a few weeks before.
Mick Quinn. Whiting. It's an up and under, a Gary Owen, and they know all about that in Dublin. Ensor, did he make the mark? It's not been allowed. It'd be a good ball for them to win. That was McDonald feeding out to Lambert. Morgan cutting inside, 10 yards short. Sid going, there must be a score here. It's Karam. Karam, can he make the line? Yes, he can. And here he is with the chance to convert his own try. Absolutely dead straight. 6 points to 0, the All Blacks lead. Williams throws, Moore palms, Maloney out to Quinn. Quinn hoists it high, Duncan Robertson waits. Ensor then. And no wonder the vast Irish crowd here are pleased about that, because New Zealand's lead cut to 6 points to 3. I make it about 19 minutes of the first half over. Joe Karam then. That's more like it. That's more like the Karam everybody knows. Once again, Peter Whiting. This time Terry Moore coming right to the tail of the line out so as to have a bit more manoeuvring room, I think. But Whiting sticking to him like a bit of flypaper. They are the 2 big men at the back. McDonald caught it from 30 yards. Hooking it round. No doubt about that one. 8 British Lions in this Irish side. On the Irish 25. Here's one of them, Ken Kennedy, throwing in. Moore seemed to be knocked out of the line-out. Sid going, caught there by Lynch. Leslie playing scrum half. Duncan Robertson out to Morgan. Morgan tackled there by Milliken. This is Bruce Robertson up to the 25, caught by Moore. Again, this beautiful ball out to Kirkpatrick. Great tackle there by McKinney. Penalty for offside. Karam from dead on the 25. Yes, it got in. He struck it pretty well. And New Zealand have won this international by 15 points to 6. And they therefore maintain their unbeaten tour record.
Within days of that victory at Lansdowne Road, Andy Leslie took his team to Cardiff Arms Park for a hastily arranged unofficial international against Wales, which could be fitted in only on a Wednesday. Gareth Edwards, one of the greatest Welsh scrum halves, was to lead Wales on the day. And even though the match was unofficial, this 10th game for Wales against the All Blacks was as important as any to his players.
Brian Williams throws. Hamish McDonald trying to catch. Offside again. Karam then. He hit that one well. That was more like it. He really gave that one a knock. Windsor throwing. Mervyn Davis palms. And so an offside decision gives Phil Bennett another chance to tie the score. Here's this tough Welsh front row with its 2 Pontypool players, Falconer and Windsor. Duncan Robertson That's into space. Gerald Davis having to turn. Up comes Grant Batty. Batty with a chance. It could be a penalty try, but it isn't. It's a penalty. Grant Batty obstructed, and I think he may even have suggested the thought of a penalty try, because he was held back. Karam. Oh, what a chance for Brian Williams, but he's offside. Well, that was a Clem Thomas if ever there was one. 15 minutes of the match to go, 3 points all. 15 yards out from the Welsh line. Batty throws to Tanner. Kirkpatrick feeds, going to Duncan Robertson, the drop goal, but it's sliced. John Williams. The breakout by J.J. Williams, Brian Williams, Bruce Robertson on the Welsh 25. Fed out there from Lambert. Hurst to Bruce Robertson. This big centre gives it inside to Going. Going half tackled there by number 5. Peter Whiting, the lock forward, tackled by Terry Cobner and by Gareth Edwards. This is tremendous stuff. Kirkpatrick is going to score. Joe Karam with the conversion attempt. No problems there. The All Blacks ahead now by 9 points to 3. Now this is a kick that the whole of New Zealand will want to see going between the sticks. Karam then, the shot run, the little stab, dead straight. And a tremendously happy final score for New Zealand, winners by 12 points to 3.
Later, there was consolation for Ireland in their centenary season with victory over both England and France at Lansdowne Road, whilst Mervyn Davies became Wales captain and in January 1973 led his team to their biggest victory against the French since 1911. In 1977, the All Blacks beat Phil Bennett's Lions 3-1 in the Test series and then took on a short tour of France. A year earlier, Taranaki flanker Graham Murray had led the All Blacks in Argentina and had played in 2 tests against the British Lions, and it was he who was given the responsibility of captaincy against the French. On the 11th of November, they lost the first test at Toulouse, 13 points to 18. The second test was at Parc des Princes.
So can New Zealand win more of the set piece? They've done so this time. Gary Sear on the peel, making tremendous headway, the new number 8. But the ball is loose, the support is not there. Aguirre's in trouble on his own line. And Bertrand comes to the rescue. Still in play, kept in by McKechnie, attempts the long drop goal. It's a fine kick, and it's over. And that was absolutely brilliant by Brian McKechnie. 5 metres outside the French 22, the tap signal from Alain Paco. Farou unchallenged. Aguirre not in touch. McKechnie up to the halfway, to Bill Osborne, to Gary Sear. Sear, strong, powerful at 6'5", the number 8. Sets up the ruck just outside the French 22. And elbowing in the ruck and obstruction. And a penalty to New Zealand. Can he make it 6-0 to New Zealand? Struck that perfectly. 6-0. 16.5 minutes of the first half. Everything happening at such a pace. The scrummage. And that looks like a strike against the head for Paco. Gilbert to Romer, the drop goal. Is it over? To the left. So this shortened line-out. New Zealand's answer to their line-out problems, and there's the variation over the top to Doug Bruce, and the lucky bounce goes to Bruce Robertson inside to Bill Osborne. Out of the face to make the line. That looks forward to Bruce Robertson from Osborne. It was. Hayden it was with the palm. Sear takes the pressure off scrum half Donaldson. And some very unorthodox methods of tackling there. The high tackle, in fact, brings the penalty against Imbenon as Sear and Gus trade blows on the ground. And Gary Sear now from 45 metres. Plenty of weight behind it. Will it carry over the bar? And that's magnificent. And New Zealand really are turning it on now. So how will France react now? A side that can sometimes lose its cool and become ineffective amongst themselves, but surely this a good answer as the pack set up. Good ball for Peru as Donaldson covers. And France now need this. Their confidence shaken. 9-0 they trail. Romer the kicker. No mistake. 5 minutes to half-time, and Romer inevitably the man that puts France back in contention. There certainly seems to be determination written over each one of these 15 all-black players. A determination to level the series with the Grand Slam champions, France. And again, Peru hounded by Donaldson and Murray. Aguirre puts it back as Stu Wilson tries to counter. Adventurous play to Doug Bruce. Sangali, Mark Taylor following up and bringing off the tackle to put Sangali in touch. The quick throw by Murray is effective to Gary Knight. Donaldson, Doug Bruce has found him every time. Bruce Robertson now with tremendous acceleration and the dummy on to Stu Wilson. He's going to score under the post. What a fantastic try by New Zealand. That really was classic. And it all stemmed from the initiative at the line-out. 13 points to 3 then. Barely 2 minutes played of the second half. And the Kepney makes it 15 points to 3. And New Zealand are on song.
So Murray's All Blacks returned to New Zealand after their 1977 tour of Italy and France with just one defeat in 9 games. And then, after defeating Australia 2-1 in the 1978 series at home, the All Blacks were back. Graham Morey as captain to maintain the reputation of New Zealand rugby in leading by example in what was to become known as the Grand Slam Tour. The first of their test matches was against an Irish team, encouraged by the fact that the All Blacks had been defeated by Munster. The flank forward Shay Deering of St Mary's Dublin was captain.
To Bruce with the left-footed drop goal. The referee's hand goes up and it's through, and the All Blacks are in the lead by 3 points to 0 after just 17 minutes of the first half. Ireland have turned it. And the All Blacks have been penalised. And this is a chance for Tony Ward to tie the score. Ward then, round the corner. It's high enough, and the crowd seems to say it's straight enough. Donaldson getting a good channel. Sear holding it in. Sear going for the pick-up, giving Donaldson a bit of space. This is Bruce. That was Osborne on the scissors. Osborne, who's so powerful. Up to within about 15 metres again. Donaldson to Bruce. Bruce going for the second drop goal, and it's there. So Doug Bruce puts New Zealand ahead by 6 points to 3 with just 3 minutes of the second half over. Beautifully channeled to Patterson. The switch there. Nicely to Ward. Ward, the jinking sidestep. A lovely bit of rugby football there. That was Curry who came in, but there's been a bit of late obstruction. And there's a real chance here for Ireland to tie the score. Tony Ward looks simple enough from here, doesn't it? But with 51,000 people looking at you and praying for you, the pressure is very great. Tony Ward then. Oh, it looks a good one. Dalton again, hoisting it for Hayden. Hayden to Donaldson. Donaldson trying to go for the corner flag. Has he made the line? Clive Norling has got his hand up, and the New Zealanders are dancing with joy. because they've gone ahead with that try. Dalton the hooker was up there. He gave it inside to Brad Johnson, but it was Dalton the hooker who drove over and seemed to have got the ball down. The referee's whistle goes for the end of the match, and New Zealand have won in a dramatic finish by 10 points to 6.
A week later, Graham Murray was leading his team out onto Cardiff Arms Park to meet a Welsh team who had won the Grand Slam the previous season, but had lost 2 tests on a short tour of Australia. The highly respected JPR Williams was still there, now as captain, but could no longer call on the likes of Edwards, Bennett, Cobner and Gerald Davis. At outside half, Cardiff's Gareth Davis, who had played international rugby for the first time on that Australian tour, and it was his job to open the scoring for Wales with a penalty kick.
At the River Taff end, Gareth Davis with this chance to put Wales into the lead. Well then, can Gareth Davis put Wales 6 points in the clear? Oh, it looks good, scuttling in. What a beauty. Billy Bush with the beard in the middle of the line out. Andy Hayden behind him, then Rutledge. Frank Oliver, number 2. Jeff Wheel opposite Frank Oliver. That's Wheel. Holmes again to Davis. Fenwick on the dummy run. This is Ray Gravel. Gravel to Davis. Out to J.J. Williams. Williams, the kick past Brian Williams. Back goes Gary Sear. The referee decided that it was a trip. Fenwick with 82 international points for Wales so far. Boom. 85. McKechnie restarts. In goes Alan Martin. Fed out from Bush. Loveridge. Terry Holmes beaten by it. JJ back there, half of New Zealand with him. They're only 10 metres from the Welsh line. Along to Bruce. Now it's Osborne. Osborne with a kick for Stu Wilson. Can Stu Wilson get the touch? He's going to be there first. What a try! Well, now here Wales have tended to use Jeff Wheel near the front, or the big men Quinnell and Squire at the back, quite rightly trying to bypass Big Hayden there, who did such a great job for the All Blacks against Ireland. But that time it was Martin to Holmes, Davis to Fenwick. Again from the camera at the Taff end, Gareth Davis. McKechnie from the 22. And he's got it over the Dutch judges. How do we look at each other? But that's a good enough one for young McKechnie to lift his hopes for the rest of the afternoon. Already with 1 good goal tucked under his belt. McKechnie, straight and true, and no problems.
Then came one of the most controversial incidents in modern All Black history, involving what was described by many observers as cheating in the line-out by such respected players as Andy Hayden and Frank Oliver, the lock forwards. It cost Wales a certain victory.
Bill Bush, number 3, Andy Hayden, Lester Rutledge, and the captain, Gray Murray at the tail. Windsor, Holmes to Davies. And a penalty has been given for driving a man out of the line-out. And really that is a very serious one from the Welsh point of view and must lift New Zealand hearts. What a moment, and some of the crowd here really behaving very badly indeed. McKechnie then for New Zealand. It looks good, and it is good. He is absolutely overjoyed. McKechnie, the 24-year-old from Southland, and the referee's whistle goes for the end of the match, and the New Zealanders have gained a dramatic victory here. Peter Dixon.
With the likes of John Scott, Peter Dixon, Roger Utley and Captain Bill Beaumont in the England pack, a full house at Twickenham expected at least a draw, if not an England victory. But on the day, Beaumont's team could only depend on the accurate kicking of fullback Dusty Hare from Leicester.
Dusty Hare takes it with his back to the All Blacks, and he's dropped for goal. It looks good. Oh, what a kick! Bill Beaumont opposite Frank Oliver, and John Scott opposite Andy Hayden. And it's Wheeler to throw. Utley trying to gather in at the tail. The pick up by Oliver, and it's a try for the All Blacks. The man who captained them against the Australians, that loose ball at the tail of the line out, and Oliver puts the All Blacks ahead by 4 points to 3. It seemed to go forward from a New Zealand hand, but so difficult to tell. But Oliver driving through was there for the pickup and driven over by Graham Murray. Has he drawn it in? Yes, he has. Cowling, Beaumont, big John Scott in behind Nelms. Dixon is there and Utley at the tail. John Scott, and it's a try given. The knockdown by John Scott, and it's Brad Johnston, the prop forward. That looks better. I'll be pleased about that. And the All Blacks have won convincingly by 16 points to 6.
For Scotland, Ian McGeechan was given the responsibility of captaincy when his country took on Graham Murray's team at Murrayfield, 9th of December. With players like Irvine, Hay and Rennick in the backs, Biggar, Deans, McLaughlin and McHarg in the forwards, he certainly felt there was enough talent in the Scottish team to stop the All Blacks taking the Grand Slam.
Oh, and completely missed there by Doug Bruce. What a chance for Scotland. Dixon up, gives it to Biggar. They've just shot of the line, and it's over, and it's a try for Bruce Hay. Scotland 4, New Zealand 0, about 8 minutes of the match gone. Ian McLaughlin, number 1 there, waiting for the service. It comes from Donaldson to Bruce, but a penalty for encroaching beyond the rear feet. The chance for McKechnie to close the deficit to 6-3. Hit it pretty well enough. Scott's probably not striking, but going for the 8-manner. The All Blacks as Sear goes over, he's got it down. And I think it's the big number 8 who managed to get it down. Yes, there he is, Gary Sear of Otago. Deans has won his strike. Lawson feeding McGeechan. McGeechan with a drop goal. It's there. Ian McGeechan, the Scottish captain, does what he did in his first international against the All Blacks. A good pass from Lawson, got him onto his good foot. McLaughlin drives in, so does Lambie. Now it's Lawson, out to McGeechan. McGeechan with a drop goal attempt. And the All Blacks have broken out to halfway. Doug Bruce, the kick on there by Bill Osborne, and Bruce Robertson might get a dramatic try for the All Blacks. He's got the try, and there is the most dramatic breakout I have ever seen in international rugby.
In every sense, a gloomy day for the 4 home unions, but brighter news for the New Zealanders at home, who for the first time saw all the Grand Slam matches by satellite in the early hours of the morning. A few months later, with Frank Oliver as captain, the All Blacks beat the Wallabies at home, winning both matches in a 2-test series. Graham Murray was again the captain when the All Blacks came back in 1979 for a short tour of Scotland and England, their 3rd visit to Europe in successive seasons. At Murrayfield on the 10th of November, they met a Scottish team which was led by the veteran Jordan Hill prop Ian Mighty Mouse McLaughlin.
So once again the New Zealanders with this 2-man line that for this young All Black. Dean's throwing, Domes bombs, Biggar gathers in, sweeping the line out, Mike Biggar. And it's a penalty for preventing release. Still a Wilson of Wellington scores his 20th try for New Zealand. Lawson again. Just dipped a bit low for Andy Irvine. That's kicked on there by Andy Hayden. Back goes Lawson, drops, picks up, feeds. And again, Spears driving. What a charge there by the... And that really seals it for them. A convincing victory for the All Blacks by 20 points to 6.
But it wasn't all one-way traffic for Murray's side. A week later, they went to Otley to meet a Northern Division selection led by Bill Beaumont, the Fylde and England lock. The Northerners were to go into the rugby history books as the only team to beat the 1979 New Zealanders. It was to be a 21 points to 9 victory, achieved by a 4-1 try count. And one of Northern's tries was an outstanding example of team play.
Through for Carlton. The clash with Bernie Fraser, but Carlton retrieves the ball. Good acceleration. 5 metres out. Simpson, Steve Smith, an overlap. A try for Tony Bond in the corner. A moment of heroism for Tony Bond and for the Northern Division.
Not surprisingly, a week later, 7 of that successful Northern Division side were in the England team, including as captain Bill Beaumont. A match of high tension and drama, which produced just 1 try.
Taylor engulfed in white, but the All Blacks have still won it. Loveridge giving it there to Stu Wilson on the England 22. Good tackling there by Preston and Peter Wheeler in there as well. Now it's Loveridge. In comes Bernie Fraser. Oh, what a bounce, and it's a try for Fleming. Dusty Hare with this penalty attempt.
In fact, Dusty Hare's 3 penalty kicks accounted for England's total points, whilst fullback Wilson's 2 penalties gave the All Blacks a 1-point victory, to which they added success on the way home by beating Italy 18-12 in Rovigo. A year later, Murray returned with another All Black team, this time to help Wales celebrate their centenary season. On the way over, they beat the American Eagles 53-6 at San Diego and Canada 43-10 in Vancouver. On the 1st of November, they met Wales at Cardiff Arms Park, and Wales' centenary captain was Steve Fenwick.
Sidestep, but loses possession, and now it's fed back. Loveridge again. Allen, there is an overlap here. Out to Bruce Robertson. Robertson over the 22. Murray's outside him. Stu Wilson coming inside. Murray scores. What a brilliant try. Robertson really opened it out. Now watch how he accelerated, and then over the 22. Murray had Wilson as the decoy man. Just checked young Ackerman enough. The New Zealand captain did the rest. Welsh 22, Loveridge switching to Osborne. Osborne flat out. Out there to Rollison. There's a chance here. He lost it as he went over. But the referee has given the score, and it's actually Neil Allen. Allen, the young standoff half. The ball seemed to go out of his grasp. Did he get the top of his body on it? He didn't seem to get downward pressure, but the referee is the man who decides. Mexted. Notice the pickup. Loveridge. That's Bernie Fraser. He's got it down. That's the New Zealanders' 3rd try of the match. And that came completely out of the blue. Absolutely stunned the crowd, that one. 15 points to 3, New Zealand lead. Doug Rollison. No problems with that one.
And that penalty goal by Rollison gave the All Blacks victory, 23 points to 3. The Welsh were aware that they'd now lost to New Zealand on 7 successive occasions. For Graham Murray, it was a personal triumph. As the All Blacks captain, he had led his team to no fewer than 11 international victories in Europe. And for the 5th successive season, he was back, this time leading the All Blacks on a tour of France and Romania. In Bucharest, they beat the Romanians 14 points to 6, and the first of their 2 tests against France was at Toulouse on the 14th of November 1981. The French captain was their prop, Robert Paparambourg.
Lovely dummy. Has Wilson outside a second dummy. Wilson in, surely. Brilliant try. And what genius from Dave Loveridge.
It's a good push by the French, disrupting the All Black scrummage. Hayden in there to rescue it. Feeds to Loveridge. Rollison. Blanco takes it. But France were offside, so it's Alan Hewson called up. About a metre or 2 inside the French half, and a long penalty goal attempt by him. What a magnificent kick. And the crowd trying to draw the referee's attention to the replacement prop forward, but John West having none of it. And New Zealand have this massive advantage now in the set piece, and it's going to pay off. It could mean a try. Through there goes Shaw, but the try is not given. Or is it a penalty try under the post? A penalty try under the post, because I think as Shaw went through, he was prevented from diving for that loose ball. From the back next to Murray Shaw. Shaw trying to get it, but France have won it. Straight through, missing out Laporte to Bertrand Mesny. And the interception taken by Stu Wilson. He'll never have an easier try than this. Under the post, and perhaps the score that seals the outcome of this series in New Zealand's favour.
Yes, the Seal, in fact, on an extraordinary record for the All Blacks and for their captain, Graham Morey, who now handed over the job of leading New Zealand to the Wellington wing Stuart Wilson when the All Blacks came back in 1983 on a short tour, hastily arranged as a substitute for a cancelled visit to Argentina. It was a demoralising experience for the All Blacks when, just 4 days before meeting the Scots, they were defeated at Leicester by a rampaging Midland division. The victory by 19 points to 13 included a 3-1 try count and 11 points inevitably from the reliable kicking of Dusty Hare. That setback behind them, and on the 12th of November, Stuart Wilson led the All Blacks out onto the pitch at Murrayfield. The gala prop Jim Aitken was Scotland's captain, and his front row colleagues Hooker, Colin Deans and Poppy and Milne were regarded as the best in Europe. There was high regard too for the half-back pairing of Roy Laidlaw and John Rutherford.
He's already spotted an offside decision, but Rutherford has the drop goal chance, and it's over. Scotland have taken the lead.
All Blacks beginning to assert themselves up front, as we had in fact inspected, from Donald to Wayne Smith. But that's going to be dropping short. Back there is Pollock. Looks for the counter-attack chance. That's not a bad ball, that Mexted underneath. Took it well. Pollock in with the tackle, but beautifully slipped to Andy Donald. Donald now on the break, has the pack in support inside. Shaw to Bernie Fraser, and a chance here. The little chip past Dodds. Fraser's going to win this. What a try for the winger. The man from Wellington. New Zealand reeling before the Scottish power. What a surge they've put on. The driving, brilliant now, towards the New Zealand line. Again, the Scotland pack. Back it comes. Rutherford through to Kennedy. Great tackle midfield there by Steve Picari. But an offside decision against New Zealand. Peter Dodds. And that keeps Scotland in the hunt. Well, what a climax to this game. Just a couple of minutes remain, and whatever injury time there is to play out. What a revelation from this Scottish pack. Here they go again. Rutherford down the line. Johnston. Oh, that's a beautifully placed chip. Pollock charging down that far right wing. He's going to get the try. Pollock has scored and put the scores level. What a dramatic finale to this match. Pollock again.
Indeed, an incredible performance by Scotland. And a week later, the All Blacks are at Twickenham. After the Midland Division victory, the Leicester and Lions hooker Peter Wheeler had been appointed England captain, and his team felt that it was time to commit the famous 1935 Obolensky match to a footnote in history.
New Zealand are offside in front of their own posts.
So Hare, his easiest chance yet. Can England go ahead?
England leading 6 points to 3. England still just outside that New Zealand 22. Youngs again probing, tying them in. Simpson takes it on. And the drive on from Colclough. Youngs, Cosworth, Woodward, Hare, Slemon. A real chance. Can he get outside? Just forced out in the corner.
Well, a chance on England's throw-in now.
Bainbridge up highest. England drive to the line. Still in possession, Bainbridge. Still has it. The try for England. And Colclough is the man to get up with the ball. Maurice Colclough. What a time to score your first try for England. Does New Zealand form an emergency huddle conference? Dusty Hare has the conversion attempt. Magnificent. 12 points to 3. 11 minutes of this second half played. The pressure on now, though. 5 metres out. Donald standing off, leaving it for Mexted once more. Youngs did the right thing, but the knock-on allows advantage. Mexted again, almost through, but just held those 2 metres short. Hickory still has it. England swamp, deny. But again comes the All Black pack. Donald can't find a way through either. The pressure on this time, and over the England line. The try is given. And Murray Davey there at the bottom with McGrattan. Murray Davey, the replacement, comes up with the ball as the try is awarded. Robbie Deans with the conversion. Within 3 points now go New Zealand. England stay ahead, as they have been since the 18th minute of the first half, and there's still more to come. Perhaps Winterbottom, Wheeler in there. Colclough, superb, but a knock-on allows advantage to be played, but New Zealand offside. Dusty Hare only about 25 metres out. He's done it.
Indeed, he did it. Hare's conversion and 3 penalties added to Colclough's try gave England their first victory over the All Blacks for nearly half a century. For both Scotland and England, the kicking of their fullbacks Dodds and Hare were the dominating factors in both matches. The 1986 All Blacks were really the nucleus of the side that New Zealand wanted for the inaugural Rugby World Cup, scheduled for the following year, when they came on an 8-match tour of France. Their captain was the Canterbury flank forward Jock Hobbs, their coach the 1967 All Blacks captain Brian Lahore, and at scrum half Auckland's David Kirk. At Toulouse they won the first test mainly through the kicking of their fullback Kieran Crowley, but on the 15th of November they were at Nantes for the second test. France, under the leadership of hooker Daniel Dubroca, were in no mood to lose again.
Kirk high for the All Blacks to chase onto. Eric Schomp took it in well, but the All Blacks driving him, but Schomp delivered it nicely. Bonnie Val. All Blacks in trouble here. Bonnie Val again. Might be too far. No. Kirk hard on defence. Coming on the French side. Snuffled away there by Arthur Stone. Ball lying loose, getting close, Charvet. Denny Charvet scored the try. Barrow. Laurier timed his jump beautifully again. Whistle's gone. And the All Blacks are penalised. And here's Philippe Beto to try and make it 12 points to 3. Struck that well. Nicely timed kick by Beto, and life really is going to be difficult now for the All Blacks. Stanley across to Boddicker. Craig Green tackling is sound. Joe Stanley goes back with the All Blacks. Oh, here's trouble. Menel, Desharvet, Lonko, Bonival. Oh, great tackle by John Kerwin. Sean Fitzpatrick. Already the whistle's gone. Free kick against the All Blacks. No, not this time. Charging through here, Barney. Diving, yes. Laurier the man who scores France's second try.
To make it a drawn series then, and a second test defeat that was to be the All Blacks' last loss for 20 games. But plenty of work in store for New Zealand as they prepared for the first World Cup a year later, when in fact they were to meet France again in the final at Eden Park, Auckland. One of New Zealand's heroes of the early 70s, Alex Wiley, came back for a tour of Wales and Ireland in 1989 as coach. His captain was to prove to be the best number 8 in the world, and certainly one who maintained the standards expected from an All Blacks captain. Wayne Shelford from Auckland club North Harbour. By the time they met the Welsh at Cardiff Arms Park on the 4th of November, they'd already won 6 matches in Wales, scoring 200 points in the process. Wales took the field with Swansea scrum half Robert Jones as captain, and he was very much aware of the last time he'd played against the All Blacks, when they were roundly defeated in the World Cup quarter-final in Brisbane. Once again, New Zealand were rampant.
As he's hoisted a high one up the touchline to Gary Owen. Jones waits, called for the mark, it's kicked on by Shelford. Shelford kicked away by Paul Thorburn. And what a nervous start there for the Welshman as Shelford almost got to the line. Will they go for a shove over? The Welsh have held them. Bash up, and it's almost the young fella Craig Innes getting over. The referee has his hand up, the try is given, and New Zealand are ahead. And would you believe it, in his very first international, only his 5th game in an All Blacks jersey, Craig Innes has scored. What a debut. There's Gary Wetton, 40th international today. Kevin Phillips using Mark Jones at the tail. That was a super jump as well. Penalty against the All Blacks for being rounder for maybe pulling it down. And he needs this for 200 points. Thorburn looks very good. It's pinpoint. What a riposte. Fast to Phil Davis. Phil Pugh held in half of New Zealand. Kevin Phillips went in. Jones, Clement. That's another monster. It's got snow in it, that one. Gallagher waits. Gary Wetton was back. Thorburn. Oh, easy as pie. They're level at 6 points all. And so David Young's had a ticking off for a bit of foul under the foul play law. Three metres up to that crossbar. Grant Fox then. He's very casual, and it's made it. He stroked it quite beautifully. Stanley. Gallagher is clean through. Gallagher feeding on the try for Bashop. And Bashop also has scored. The 2 new caps in the New Zealand side have scored tries on their debut, and that surely seals it for the All Blacks. 19 points to 6, they're up. Notice the feet wide apart, which is unusual in a way. They'll step backwards and then plonk. Flags are up again. There are times when you feel that Grant Fox can't miss. 21 points to 6. Through there goes Sean Fitzpatrick again. Pick up by Murray Pierce. Bashop onto Shelford. To the Welsh 22. Another lovely ball left Bashop. Fox to Schuster. Gallagher once again. Gallagher like lightning. Out there for second try for Craig Innes. Oh, what a debut for the 20-year-old. Bashop. Schuster. Woomph, he's found a lot of space. And it's Emir who has to go back there with half of New Zealand after him. Look at Gallagher. Good fall by Emir. Good follow-up tackle by Innes. Now it's Gallagher. He's away again. Almost up to the Welsh 22. There's Errol driving on. It's Bashop once more. Out to the open side to Fox. The feed on to Stanley. Stanley onto McDowell. Great tackle by Mark Jones. The pickup by Bashop. Out to Brewer. This is Fox. Terry Wright. Wright is home. 29 points to 9. Grant Fox. Notice how he goes through exactly the same routine. Takes his time. And then Woomph. Looks good. It is Absolutely spot on. And the All Blacks have won a convincing victory by 34 points to 9.
Resounding success for Wayne Shelford's team. And then it was over to Ireland for devastating victories against Leinster, Munster, Connacht and Ulster. Their test match against Ireland at Lansdowne Road on the 18th of November. And the Irish were led in confrontational style by Willie Anderson.
Fitzpatrick throws, Murray Pearce took it. In goes McDowell. Yes, they were trying to roll it round there. Bishop, Fox. This is Schuster. Good tackle by Smith. Penalty. Allowed blast for the penalty. Giving Grant Fox this chance to put New Zealand into the lead. It's a good kick. It may just make it. It just got over. The wind caught it. But what a magnificent kick. And again it was Matthews. Again on to Jimmy McCoy. Good tactic that. And a lovely throw. And it's a penalty against... Yes, it might be Mike Brewer, the Otago flank forward, who is penalised. Brian Smith then. Brian Smith long enough and straight enough. And all Ireland rejoices. Bishop, Fox. Missed out Schuster to Stanley. This is right. Wright is away, and Gallagher's taken it. Oh, Gallagher's almost up to the 22. He's got Brewer inside him, and Gallagher is all the way. A superb try by the fullback. John Gallagher scores the first try of the match. His 13th try in test matches for New Zealand. His 30th try in all matches. And it was a beauty. Again, though, out to Smith from Ahern. A long, high, awkward kick meant for Mullen. Joe Stanley has it. Stanley onto Gallagher. That's brilliant play, Schuster. That was great stuff onto Brewer, but the referee's whistle has gone for offside away across the field. Brian Smith has kicked the penalty goal, and Ireland are back in the match, 10 points to 6 adrift. Fox, Schuster, Stanley. There's an extra man here as Gallagher goes. Almost over the 22, out to Schuster. Schuster has beaten his man over the 22. This is brilliant stuff. It's going to be a try for the youngster again. Craig Innes balked at the corner flag. Richard Lowe trying to shuffle his way. It was Gary Wetton. There, Mike Brewer helping as Shelford drove. That's a magnificent surge by the All Black forwards. The power and strength and drive is beginning to tell. And again, it's a case of where is the ball? Sean Fitzpatrick, Shelford trying to roll it clear. Now Gary Wetton, now Bishop, out to Fox, along the line to Schuster. This is Gallagher. Gallagher to Terry Wright. That surely is the clinching score. Terry Wright's 13th try in test matches. His 27th for New Zealand. Can Ireland keep it to that until the end? Smith's throw. Knocked down by Pearce. Bishop to Fox. The feed in there to Innes. Innes coming through like an express train. That was Mike Brewer on there. The drive over by Shelford. The try is given. The New Zealand captain has scored it. Sandy McNeil was very well positioned. Grant Fox with the conversion. New Zealand's third try of the match. 30 seconds we thought it was to go, but in fact the final whistle has gone. New Zealand winners by 23 points to 6.
So yet another exhibition of power, skills and quality rugby that brought accustomed success again. New Zealand, the rugby nation that everyone most wants to beat.